Car accidents, slip and fall injuries, medical malpractice, dog bites. These are just some of the ways people get injured and need to know what their legal rights are when it comes to recovering losses for their injury. My guest here today is Robert Greening. He is the founder of Greening Law. He's board certified in personal injury trial law and has been practicing personal injury for more than 30 years. He's frequently recognized by his peers for the work that he does in helping people find peace and reclaim their own dignity and justice after suffering an injury. Robert, thank you so much for being here
Thank you,
today.
Jennifer.
As we sort of begin this conversation, I want to talk about what falls within the realm of personal injuries.
Well, really, you already said it. I mean, all those kinds of horrible things that happen to people can sometimes cause people to be hurt. And, people hear the word personal injury. It's not the way people talk, really, but that's the type of law that this is. It's personal injury trial law. And really, any kind of accident or negligent behavior on the part of someone else that causes someone to be hurt is a personal injury or a potential personal injury claim.
It's good to know. I think, when I'm driving around the city and I think of personal injury, I think of the big billboards and the big
Yeah,
signs all over town. And so it's sort of good to drill down and kind of get a better understanding. I
yeah.
mean, it isn't always just a big trucking accident or a big car accident. It can
Mhm.
be things can happen more in the day-to-day of life.
Right. And also, people don't think about medical malpractice or nursing malpractice or pharmacy malpractice cases as being personal injury cases, but those types of cases are a subset of personal injury. And yeah, there's just all kinds of ways that crazy things that happen to people that cause injuries. And if you can tie the event to some sort of negligent behavior that caused the injury, that's where an attorney comes in like me that can help build the evidence and prove that case up. So, one thing I would say is that people just, to me, it's one of the most interesting parts of what we do because it deals with people and interesting things that happen to them, and really sometimes horrible things that happen to them. But we just try to make it better for them.
So, if someone has been injured, I mean, of course, there are different types of injuries, right? I can
Yeah.
have an injury from a sprained ankle to all the way to the death of a loved one. When should they reach out and contact an attorney?
Well, it sort of depends on the kind of case it is. You know, we do a number of car accident cases, and in those kind of cases, I always tell people it's really important from the minute that you have a bad car accident, even if in the moment you don't feel like you got hurt, because sometimes adrenaline kicks in, and that's God's way of like protecting us from immediate trauma. Sometimes you're hurt, right? Sometimes it's a horrible situation and there's a lot of people hurt in your car or what have you. But regardless of how severe the accident is, pictures need to be taken at the scene of the accident. Now, everyone has, a camera basically in their pocket. So
Right.
take pictures immediately of the scene, try to get video of the scene if you can. Of everything going on at the scene, because that is eyewitness information. Now, your question was, when should somebody contact an attorney? Well, in a motor vehicle accident, it should be relatively immediately, if possible. Now, if you're in the hospital or something like that and you can't, then that's okay. But really as immediately as you can, because what's going to happen is an insurance company for the person at fault is going to start reaching out to you and really trying to put pressure on you, and you really need to know what your rights are. So in that kind of case, I would say pretty immediately. If it's a medical case or a nursing malpractice case or something like that, sometimes you don't really realize what's going on in your hospital stay. Uh, you're just trying to get well and get better, but maybe you don't realize that something happened until after you're already home. People, it's just varies from time to time what the different facts of a medical malpractice case when you realize you got malpracticed on. I would say any kind of case you have, though, same as a divorce case. I mean, any kind of legal matter that you have, the sooner you can get with an attorney, the better, because in my kind of cases, in personal injury cases, there are statutes of limitations, and they can creep up on you pretty quickly. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And I always think, and I know this is the case within family law and divorce cases, is people are often kind of afraid to reach out and to talk with an attorney. People hear a lot of stories about exorbitant fees for lawyers in general.
Yeah.
And so I know personal injury is a little bit different. Why don't tell us what somebody should expect from a personal injury attorney when they're looking for an attorney and, when they're reaching out?
Yeah. So what we do at our firm is we try to make the whole sort of process as easy as possible, because we know that when people call us, it's because something bad's happened, right? So it's a loss of a loved one, or it's somebody that's really badly injured and they're in the hospital because of a bad wreck, or they're back in the hospital again because they got malpracticed on by a doctor or a nurse or something like that. So they're hurting in some kind of way, whether it be physical or a mental type of hurting because they've lost, let's say, the breadwinner in their family due to an accident or something. So we are very, aware of that, and we know that the people that call us are in a lot of stress. So really, our mission statement at our firm is that we always tell our clients, we got this for you. We will fight your legal battle, so you just have time for healing and renewal. And that's really, we go to work every day with that sort of mindset. And everybody at our office, from the very first person that somebody calls when they're trying to see if they want to hire us or not, that person has the mindset of that all the way through the whole intake process. We are very aware that people are in crisis, and we do what we can to help alleviate that crisis immediately and try to restore their confidence that we are going to take care of this so that they can just focus on their family or focus on themselves and get better. So I don't know if I answered the question.
Well, I'm going to come back to sort of the follow-up, because I think that's really good to know, is that really when you're looking for a personal injury attorney, you should look for a place that's going to have resources to really support you through your recovery. How do fees get paid? Because I think, if maybe somebody has hired an attorney before for their divorce, and they're afraid they're going to be exorbitant fees. If somebody's been injured in personal injury, how is that structured differently?
So we don't charge by the hour, because many of our clients would not have the means to be able to pay by the hour. Many of our clients are out of work because of an injury that has happened, and certainly they wouldn't be able to pay by the hour. And so luckily here in Texas, we have the ability to do our work on a contingency fee basis. And when I say here in Texas, there's some states that don't allow attorney contingency fee contracts. There's a movement in the state of Texas to do away with attorney contingency fee contracts, which would really be a really horrible thing for the consumers of Texas, because they could then get taken advantage of by big corporations, negligence, or other more powerful people that could do harm to them and be unable to seek justice for that. So it's really a bad deal if our legislature tries to do away with contingency fee contracts. So let me tell you what a contingency fee contract is. It's basically that our firm, when you sign a contract with our firm, we take all the risk in terms of bringing the claim. And at the end of the claim, we would take a percentage of the claim, the recovery, I should say, as an attorney's fee. So it depends on the kind of case it is, what the percentage is. It starts at a lower percentage if we don't have to file a lawsuit and we get the case settled without filing a lawsuit, and then it goes up if we have to file a lawsuit.
Because of course, if you're filing a lawsuit, then you're fronting all the fees in front. So it's not only filing fees, but it's experts, it's all the
right.
The work you have to do.
In the in the medical malpractice cases, the expenses can be quite high, and we fund all of those. In a catastrophic motor vehicle accident as well, the fees can be quite high because you have to have expert witnesses for those. But we front all of that. And then let's say we go all the way to trial on a case and we lose for some reason. The jury just doesn't see it our way. The client doesn't owe us anything. So that's what I mean by we take all the risk.
Right, right.
The only time the client owes us something is if we recover for them in some sort of way, whether it be settlement or at trial, and then we take our fee and our expenses out of that recovery. So it's great. It's a great
really
way.
opens up access to lawyers.
Right.
Now, I will say, if you're considering a divorce attorneys cannot take fees on contingency. So that's something that is,
Right.
that we're asked about, but it doesn't quite work that way.
Right.
But it makes total sense in the context of personal injury, just to be able to give access to people.
And sometimes people ask us, well, I mean, if you take a percentage of my claim, then am I not going to be fully compensated? And I mean, you are fully compensated. There's more types of damages that we can seek than just your out-of-pocket expenses. So I don't know if we were planning on talking about that or not, but I just want to kind of tell everyone here, what the basic damage model is on a personal injury case of any kind, whether it's medical malpractice.
I think that would be great. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So whether it's medical malpractice or a personal injury, general personal injury case, like you got bit by a dog that shouldn't have been off its leash and it was a vicious breed, and you got a facial scar or something like that, or whether it's a slip and fall or a car wreck, it's all the same in terms of the damages that are the rights to recovery that people have. So it's your medical expenses in the past and in the future that have been paid or incurred by the client. It's also loss of earning capacity in the past and in the future. And then there's what they call non-economic damages, which are physical impairment, physical disfigurement, and pain and mental anguish. Those are the main injury claims that can be made in a personal injury case.
So it isn't just the amount you're going to spend on medical bills, but it's
Right.
actually compensating you for the loss.
That's right.
And I will say, for people who are married, I mean, it's really important to pay attention to the type of recovery you're getting for the different damages, because your spouse may have a claim to some of those, like, lost wages, but not necessarily for the personal injury part of it.
And there can be, then the other part of it is wrongful death. So if there's a wrongful death claim, then the claimants in a wrongful death action are the deceased spouse, the deceased children, and the deceased parents. So that's where it could overlap into like a divorce situation, like whose claim is whose and that kind of thing. So I don't know, because I'm not a divorce lawyer, but I would assume that your wrongful death claim of a spouse for the loss of their spouse, their spouse is gone, so there's no divorce situation anymore, but I would think that's a separate property claim. It could come into play, like if somebody's got a wrongful death claim and they get remarried during the pendency of the wrongful death claim, and then they already get divorced before the claim's over. Is that a community property claim or not? I don't have any idea, but I would venture to guess.
These are good times, good questions when you definitely need to be seeking legal advice.
Exactly.
And we do talk about this. I mean, there are certainly times when, as a family lawyer, I have to consult with a personal injury attorney when we have things like sexually transmitted diseases are discovered, or other torts have happened during the marriage.
Right.
And you've worked on some of those cases.
Yeah.
So what, for somebody who is, considering, should I reach out to an attorney or not? What types of cases does your firm specialize in? I mean, is it typical that personal injury attorneys handle all kinds of personal injuries, or do you really kind of specialize in a certain kind?
I mean, some attorneys, specialize in one particular type of injury cases. We have sort of two sections in our firm where we have one that I call the personal injury section, which is sort of everything that's not medical malpractice, right? So it's motor vehicle accidents, premises liability cases. And within that, that's a fancy way to say something bad that happens on the premises somewhere, like a slip and fall accident or a dog bite incident, or just an unsafe workplace could even be a premises liability action that we could handle if the employer doesn't have workers' compensation insurance. If the employer has workers' compensation insurance, then the workers' comp law comes in, and that's the sole remedy against the employer. But there could be third parties out there in the premises that have responsibility, and so we would look at those. So that's that section of the firm. And then the other section of the firm is specializing in medical cases. So cases against hospitals for nursing negligence, cases against doctors for doctor errors. We have a real interest in inpatient suicide cases at psychiatric facilities, sexual assault at psychiatric facilities. Have a real keen interest in the bad stuff that happens at these psychiatric facilities that is just wrong and shouldn't happen. And we have quite a number of those cases that are very rewarding. And so that's the two areas that are sections of our firm. The only thing we don't do is products liability work. The only time we do products liability work is if it's a medical device in conjunction with a medical malpractice case.
Okay, very interesting. What got you interested in personal injury?
So way back in law school, 100 million years ago, I had to take a class called Corporations, which is called something different, I think, at every law school, but it's sort of like you learn about how corporations are set up and how to set up a corporation, because that's what lawyers do, all that. And so, I took the class, and I didn't really know that much about it, but I thought, well, I'll take it. And we had to do a project in the class where we had to do a case study on the way a corporation handled a crisis. And we could choose anything we wanted to. And I chose and most of the younger people listening, and even you may not remember this, Jennifer, because you're a little younger than me, there was the Bhopal disaster in India. And it was Union Carbide was a big fertilizer company, a chemical company, and they had a plant in this really poor part of India, and they employed all the people in the village there, and they had very unsafe work practices there, unsafe everything, and they took advantage of these poor people that lived in India to produce their fertilizer to be sold back here in the United States and all over the world. And anyhow, they had a bad explosion there at the plant, and the lawyers in that case, the people hired U.S. attorneys to come over, and the Indian law, at least at that time, life was cheap in India, and they had really bad tort system where a wrongful death claim just wasn't worth very much, no matter how bad the negligence was. And so the U.S. lawyers came in and said, oh, no, we're going to use U.S. law in India because Union Carbide's a U.S. corporation, and they successfully were able to hold Union Carbide to the standard of care, if you will, of a U.S. corporation, and really put their feet to the fire for exploiting these poor people in India and having them in a very bad, unsafe environment. And really, they got through the court system, they got them compensated fairly for that. And in the same way that they also, because money talks to corporations, that's the only thing that talks to corporations, they got Union Carbide to clean up their act and stop exploiting people. So I thought, wow, that is cool, how powerful the civil justice system can be and really make a difference in people's lives. And as a lawyer, you can be a part of that. And so, long answer to your question, but that's what turned me on to doing this kind of work.
And so when you're bringing a lawsuit against a hospital, I mean, of course, you're looking to get compensation for your client and for everything they've done. But I imagine one of the things that's rewarding is seeing sort of the change in how the hospital's delivering care so it doesn't happen
Right.
again.
That's exactly right. And many times, or oftentimes in our settlements, we insist as part of the settlement, they have to clean up their act. They have to get a new policy for this. Or many times simply because of the lawsuit that we filed, we learned during the discovery process, they've already started cleaning up the situation because they don't want to get sued again.
So the last question I want to ask you as we kind of wrap this up, but who, in a personal injury suit, who are you suing? Are you suing the property owner? Are you suing the doctors, the insurance companies? Who's your defendant?
So the defendant is the actual, what they, in law school, we say tortfeasor, but what that fancy way to say, the defendant, the person that gets sued, is the person that was the wrongdoer, right? Now, most of the time, the wrongdoer, whether it be in a car wreck, a doctor, a hospital, the nursing care, most of the time that person is insured. And so the insurance company comes in and provides them a defense.
Right.
And they don't have to pay for their defense. Excuse me, the insurance company does that. And if a settlement is made or if a judgment is rendered against them and is paid, it's paid by their insurance company.
So I know I've heard like in, smaller cases maybe where there's been a slip and fall on somebody's sidewalk or something, and the homeowner gets sued, but it can feel very personal when you're the homeowner being sued by your neighbor. And what do you tell people in situations like that?
Well, it can be personal. And we've had people call us before and they feel funny about, I can't sue this hospital, that's a powerful hospital, or something like that. My name will be out there and all that. And, what I tell them is it's ultimately their decision, right? But, do you really want to let them get away with it? Kind of thing. Especially, people are hurt really bad. I just don't understand why they have a hesitation to make a claim to get compensation for something. Let us look into it at least.
Yeah.
A lot of times people call us and we have to say no. We can just tell that we can't help them, especially in a medical case. But many times we have to, we listen to their story and we think, we're not physicians, we're not healthcare providers, but we've done this long enough to know this just doesn't pass the smell test. This doesn't seem right. So let us get the records and let's evaluate what happened, because most of the time people that something bad happens to in a hospital, they're not told the truth.
Yeah.
And so they need to at least see what the truth is. And medical records, there's so much redundancy in medical records that they don't lie. And we need to get those records and really find out what happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you for your commitment to justice, of course, and making sure that the wrongs are righted, and for taking time to visit with us today about personal injury. And we'll include a link to Robert's website down below so you can learn more about his firm and the work they do in our community of just making sure that justice is served.